Well, welcome to another episode of Rimshots with Sean right here on Eastlink Community TV. And I'm here with a very special guest. We're kicking it off season three, and we decided that we really needed to be working with this group. I have Mr. Dennis Woodworth. He's currently sitting in Bridgewater, but he's going to be going to Cuba very soon. Dennis, welcome, my friend.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks for having me.
So, we're going to get into what you've been doing, obviously on the music side of things, but if you could tell my viewers for the last number of years that you're a baseball coach, that's your background, correct?
Right. Hence the outfit that I'm wearing.
Yeah, yeah. We're representing Bulldogs baseball. It's all good. So you have the dubious distinction of coaching kids of I guess younger kids is where you typically start. Is that correct?
37 years as a high performance coach. We made our way down just for on vacation in 2012 and saw a baseball field in a place called Boca de Camaroca. We turned around and went to the field and noticed that the kids had one table leg for a bat, one glove, and one pair of flip flops, and a pork bone for a ball. And that was the moment that the idea in my mind was I can't let these kids who love baseball as much or more than anyone in the world not have the ability to play.
And of course, the kids we're talking about, this was down in Cuba, and you went down there. You mentioned for vacation. For people that don't know about that country, and I had the pleasure of being down there in April. They're having a rough time right now. What's it generally been like since you've been involved in going down there?
Well, since COVID, there's been power outages for 6 to 12 hours a day, every day, 7 days a week. An enormous shortage in food in the cities and in the country, but not on the resorts. Somewhat in the resorts, but not nearly as bad as it is outside of tourism. They struggle with propane, gasoline, the things that we take for granted every day. They spend hours, if not days, in lineups just to be able to attain the basics.
Unbelievable. And when I went down, my first takeaway, obviously, I was down there in April, and it was extremely hot, even for that time of year. And I'm told that's their winter, where it's not as hot as it normally can be. Um, my first takeaway was the people were just fantastic. They were just, if things were bad, you would never know it by the way they acted and the way they were kind of conducting themselves. They were just fantastic people.
Well, they are. They're raised the right way in most cases because they spend a lot of time with their family members, their mentors, their grandparents, and parents are an integral part of their life on a daily basis. And on top of that, they recognize that Canada is the number one tourism country in the world that supports their country economically. So they are very appreciative of everything that we do because they know without us, it would be even in greater dire straits.
So you've got a history now of bringing kids from Cuba to come up here to play ball, and you've brought teams down there. And it's an arduous process. I mean, you told me some stories which we're not going to share here today. But
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
what what's been involved, I guess, in getting that started? I mean, obviously it's a financial thing, but you need help and you need volunteers. There's all kinds of different things that take place.
Oh, it's a multitude of things that have to happen. I mean, you have to have the interest in families that want to go and do the work. So we combine it as a vacation and a cultural and educational experience through sport. So when you combine those two together, parents are very open to it, and their kids get so much out of it. And as much as our kids get, it's 100 times more for the kids there. So it's a win-win relationship, and it's something that I'm very proud of. And we've been doing it for over a decade, and it's been an amazing, amazing journey along the way with some incredible stories.
Well, now it's interesting because you're a business owner, and that 5 year mark seems to be if you make it to the fifth year, you're going to be okay. You're doing it 10 years now. Were there some points in time and maybe where you just said, I just can't do this anymore. I don't have the help. Things are going sideways, or it was just no head down, nose to the grindstone. We're going to make it happen.
Well, there's a phrase in leadership training that says if the why is big enough, the how becomes easier. So the why is enormous in this case because it involves kids that love the game that I love. So I'm paying the sport forward to the future generations of baseball players, which some of them could be stars in the world. And for me, it's just an honor to be able to be a leader in our province and in our country. I've met so many incredible coaches, players, parents over that time frame that it's just been nothing but a blessing in regards to that. So it really has been something that Well, I'll never stop doing.
So now, when are you will you be going down with another group of kids or bringing another group of kids up here? Obviously, baseball season in Canada is winding down for the year, but what does that look like for you?
We've got a Newfoundland girls team coming in October on the 5th. And then we have a team from Manitoba on the 31st of January. And then we have another group going in late February, early March. And then we have two groups coming in April. So that really brings a lot of contribution to the project. And that's really the focus and the mindset is the more teams that you bring, the every team averages 500 to 1,000 pounds per team. So it's an amazing moment every final day when we go to the stadium where we distribute the gear. The coaches and the kids are so appreciative. It's like Christmas, Sean. I mean, it really is. It's like Christmas.
I know, and I mean, I'm looking forward to being involved this year, and we'll talk about that in the next segment. But just, and when you say pounds, I mean, like, so things like, necessities that we take for granted, things like it's very hard for those folks to get things there. So part of what you do is you have people that go and help you bring items that are very, sought after to get them down there and make sure that people have access to them. And, people need to know that.
Well, one team from Moncton, New Brunswick in 2023 brought 1,200 new baseballs.
Incredible.
1,200 baseballs. That was an amazing feat. It was a goal that they wanted to reach. They actually gave me the 1,201st ball signed by all the players. This country, we have some really, really good people that live here. You talk about Cuba and how they're looked upon as very nice people in the world. So are we, and that's
Yeah.
really what we sought out is look for good people in our country. Obviously, not every single person is, but we are looking for people that really are interested in four things. One, that they love to travel in the winter, that they do it regularly. Two, that they love, Cuba because it's a very, very unique place. Three, they love sports, mostly baseball, softball, soccer, cheer. We've done it all. And last but not least, they love to help kids. If they meet those four criteria, it's a home run, no pun intended.
No pun intended. Well, I tell you what, it's hard to believe we've hit our first commercial here. We got to pay some bills. What we're going to do, Dennis, when we come back, we're going to talk about another unique event that it's going to be two unique events, but the first one we're going to talk about is Caribbean Goes Country 2025, and we're back after this. Well, welcome back to Rimshots with Sean right here in Eastlink TV. I'm here with Dennis Worthington. Dennis Woodworth. Why did I say Worthington? Too many
It's
names
a
going
good
through.
name, Sean. That's
Yeah,
a good name. Man, I could change to that. Worthington's a really good name.
yeah, not so bad, right? It looks good in the back of a jersey. So
Yeah.
we were just talking about this effort to bring baseball and gear to kids in Cuba. From that, you started going and experimenting with something else that's become a big hit. Two events, and the first one we're going to talk about is Caribbean Goes Country. You had a banger event last year. It was 2 weeks last year, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
It was 1 week in two locations, one in
Okay.
Moline, one in Veradero, headlined by Doc Walker.
Huge undertaking. I mean, people just so people know, and this isn't a disparaging remark against anybody, but I mean, you bring A-listers from right across our country because people in the States, you might as well forget about going down there. That's just the way that it is. You
No.
can get in there, but so it's Canadian artists, A-listers that go down there and put on these things. So talk a little bit about that. That just the logistics itself must be staggering.
Well, it's off the charts. And once again, I think the how is endured by the why. So the why is when COVID hit Cuba, so many kids and families died that I saw going through the pediatric hospitals. And I was devastated, you know. And instead of just looking at the problem, I tried to find a solution. And I look back to my childhood in 1985, which kind of dates me. I was a teenager, 15 years old, and Bob Geldof ran an event called Live Aid, which was to support kids in Africa. And that's where Do They Know It's Christmas and We Are the World, and Tears Are Not Enough. All those songs raise money to be able to help that situation. And I use that model the same way. We have the only all Canadian country music festival in Cuba. It's the only one, and we do bring like Doc Walker was here last year with a plethora of artists. This year's the Roadhammers and Aaron Prechette with another great ensemble of artists from coast to coast. And what it's meant to do is to rally our Canadian citizens to come and enjoy their vacations with us, enjoy country music like none other in the middle of winter in February, and be able to help these kids in need. Last year alone, Sean, in our first year, we raised over 18,000 pounds in donations.
It's incredible. And here's the thing that people need to know, because you mentioned COVID, and COVID hit everybody.
Yeah.
Musicians got hit hard too because there was no venues to play. We were told we couldn't go out, but it always, well, it never surprises me that when stuff like this happens, the musicians are the first ones usually
Yeah.
to step up and say, "Hey, you know what? We'll lend a hand. We'll give a hand," and that needs to be recognized, because I think sometimes there's this connotation in the music business that people just always want stuff for free, or you know what I mean? So I think it's important that this partnership really, you're doing your thing to get that those provisions down to the people, and people are kind of coming on side with the event.
The artists are the
And,
reason, a big reason why people come. Helping the kids is an added bonus, and it gives us the vehicle because we're loading on average 10 pounds per person. Some bring a luggage bag with 3 or 4 people, whatever the case may be. But the reality is the artists create the platform to be able to tell people what's going on. And, if we don't help each other in society, we're in big trouble. Governments are not going to bail us out.
yep.
It is up to us in this time of our lives to help each other. And it's a perfect example of what we're doing that we need to duplicate. I've said to Sean many times, I hope every event does the same thing that we do. I hope they duplicate it, because then it shows that we do care about each other in the world.
Yeah, and I mean it's real easy to lose sight of that. I mean, like, my biggest thing that I kept saying, COVID was gone and or going on, and everybody was like, "We're in this together," and I'm never going to take music for granted. And then I kept saying, you know what? I really hope people feel that way, and I'm starting to feel like maybe they're taking things a little bit for granted. Like, I just heard of another venue today that's closing in Fredericton that was a live music venue that's not going to be around anymore. So for something like this, I think it's really important. I mean, yes, the music's going to be fantastic, and we'll give some plugs to that, but it's important for people to follow through on these things. Correct?
Well, I'm telling you, if we don't do something about it, 5 years from now, it's going to be a whole different world we're living in. And the steps we take in the right direction lead to other steps in the right direction that lead to other steps in the right direction. Um, it's funny because one of the quotes that I actually heard today was one of the most important things, and it was by Robin Williams, that the most important thing you could do in life is think of others.
Mhm.
And when you hear from a guy like him and his mouth, with all the experience that he's had in life and his time, um, it's easy to follow. This event will outlive you and I. It'll be that
Yeah.
simple. And I hope, I'm very hopeful and very optimistic that what we do leaves behind a legacy of contribution, because that's what it's all about.
And I agree with you there, because the people that I've been introduced to through you and have interviewed to kind of start plugging this thing, they all are on the same page in terms of, yeah, the trip's going to be great. It's going to be fun to play, and it's going to be fun to meet people. But to be able to give your time and have this kind of impact at the tail end, I think everybody's really excited about that. I mean, Steve Maillet, you could just see the passion in his voice when he was talking about it when I interviewed him. It was great.
And Sean, he was a stranger to me. Every single person I did not know personally. So I interviewed every person. They're all on board today. So what does that tell you? When you have all of the artists that are on board as alumni artists that tell other artists, it tells you that what we're doing is genuine and real. And I tell you, I just cannot wait for all of us to be in one venue this year at one place at one time. It'll be a special moment for sure, no question.
It's going to be a hoot. And I guess while we're on it, because we got a little over a minute before we go, we have to take a break. But getting, booking for this event, you've made it easy. How can people go about, finding Country Goes Caribbean 2025, and where do they look for everything to get on board?
You just go to the website, CaribbeanGoesCountry.com, and go to the frequently asked questions, because it answers a lot of them for you, because people have it. And then the other thing is that they can reach out to me personally. I'm sure you could put my contact number and email in the show, and I'm more than willing and welcoming anyone's questions. And any way we can help. We have a plethora of agents from a multitude of different agencies that are helping us out this year to make it easier for the fans. We've listened to their constructive comments on how we can make this better each and every year. We really have, and we're excited that this year it's 2 weeks long. Last year was a week, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to
And
be
you
a
can
lot of
stay,
fun.
Sean. You can stay as little as 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, or 14 days. You can choose the length of time that you want to stay.
See, and that's important because sometimes people like the big stay, and sometimes they're ready to
Yeah.
go. But that's a key point. So thank you for that, Dennis. We're
Oh,
gonna take another break here, right here in Eastlink TV with my buddy here, Dennis Woodworth, Dennis Worthington. We're gonna start calling him
yeah,
maybe. We'll be back
yeah,
after
man.
this. Well, welcome back to Rimshots with Sean right here on Eastlink TV. I'm here with Dennis Woodworth. We've talked about baseball goes to Cuba. We've talked about country goes Caribbean, or Caribbean goes country 2025. Now we're going to talk Caribbean goes 80s, which I think is cool. I had an interview with a gentleman today who was he was in a couple of famous bands. He actually tried it for Ozzy Osbourne a number of times. The question I asked him is, what is it about that decade, that time, that people love so much? And he had some great answers, but I'll ask you, what do you think it is? Because people seem to really be catching on to this.
It was an age of innocence. It was a time where there was no cell phones. We spent time with each other. We played in the street. We played outside till it was dark. And 80s music had a plethora of incredibly important artists at the time. You can Prince, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, Madonna, Dire Straits. I mean, Phil Collins, Sting, Eric Clapton. I can go on and on and on and on of how many artists were so influential at that time. So, and we're going to a place where in our lives that we love to relive that time. So I grew up in that decade, obviously. In fact, I owned a DJ business in 1987 through Junior Achievers. So I was heavily involved with music and sports. And once again, that Live Aid event in 1985, right in the middle of the decade, was influential for so many artists. And I just felt that decade of music would fit for everyone because there's so many people that are utilizing those tracks today even for current music. So it was just an easy choice, and there's so many songs that people remember, and it just takes you back in time. It really does. And and it's funny because we didn't even plan to do a Caribbean Goes 80s. We did so well in Caribbean Goes Country that our project um, associate team in Matanzas said, "What about us?" Because we thought that the Caribbean Goes Country would be in Holguin. They said, "What about Matanzas, where Veradero is?" So we created Caribbean Goes 80s, and we reached out to a lot of artists, and they were very open to it. Now the challenges when you go to the 80s show is that you have big amps, big sound. So we learned that in year one, and our team of artists that worked together and collaborated was amazing, amazing. And this year, we're just going to take it up another notch to another notch, but still deliver on the result, which is helping the kids at the same time.
Yeah, and I mean, there's been chatter amongst people, that you've introduced me to, and certainly my buddy Chris Potty and I chat all the time, and Maurice, and just about what's that going to look like, how's equipment going to get down there? Because people have to understand, like, when I went down, they had a DJ system that had, I think, 4 or 5 XLR cables that were taped together, and they're they don't get good equipment because if they try to get good equipment, it might be taken away by the government, right?
It will
So,
be, not
right,
might be. It
right.
will be.
So that's important, right? So it's like to get this gear down there, and I think the idea is once it gets down there, it's going to stay down there. People might
Yeah.
donate it. I'm certainly reaching out to people that I represent, and they're coming up with some different ideas. So it'll be cool, and I like what you said about the era because I think that there's certain songs that resonate with people. There's certain you can remember exactly where you were when this album came out or this event happened or a TV show that comes on. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Talk about the 2 resorts that are going to be used for both these events.
Same location in both events. So we visited the Grand Aston Veradero because it's a new resort. It's 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 technically up to date for everything, including electronics. and it was critical for us. So I already had a relationship with the Asta Costa Verde in Joaquin, so it just made sense that I visited the resort, and they check off all the boxes. When you look at what we need and why we need it and what we can do, that's one of my jobs, to make sure it checks off all the boxes. Michaela, who looks after our organization of artists for both events, she tells me what she needs, and then I go pursue what we need to be able to fulfill what those needs are. And we're really laser focused on this year to be able to deliver a really good product for people at an affordable price, Sean.
Yeah.
We're not at $2,500 or $3,000 a person here. We're talking about $1,500 to go to an event. And you buy your tickets to the event, which is a couple $100, which is a commitment to obviously, show that you're going to be attending. And then your all-inclusive portion, depending on where you live across Canada, will be anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500. There's no better value that you can get for 3 shows a day, every day, pool parties, after parties, live shows, for $200.
Well, I mean, value is definitely there, and then there's events that are taking place to fundraise to help, pay to get stuff down there, which is very cool. And like you say, I mean, it's where else can you see a lot of artists that you are always spread out, so you might not be able to see them because XYZ is playing another bar, and you might miss them for 4 or 5 months, and they're all going to be in the same spot with the country, with the Caribbean one. Talk about how the event went last year, because I heard great things.
Well, artists never get to spend time with each other because they're always working. And if they're not working, they're at home resting because they vocally work very hard. So that was one of the comments I got from Maurice O'Coin and Steve Maie and Shane Doothright, Chris Potty and Danny Baird and so many others was this really allows us to celebrate the music and be a voice for the moment of helping other people. And the artists enjoyed it so much. And I can tell you, the fans, they never stopped having a great time. Every night was a celebration. Every night was something to remember. The emotion, the genuine friendships that were created was amazing. It really was, because we all love that genre of music. It takes us back in time to where we were at a young age, and we love to relive it. And the girls wearing all the stuff, man. The girls, we had guys in white sport jackets and red leather pants and the long hair, and it was amazing just to go back and see all that. And then we have bands coming this year like Spandex that are going to kind of, they're a theme style band with all those hair metal bands shows and songs, and we have such a good lineup of artists, including obviously Michelle and the band and so many others that just are committed to getting this job done, because I don't know of anything else that you can do to say we had such a great time and we made such a great impact in other people's lives. I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, it honestly was never a bucket list place for me to go, and then I went there, and I'm not only super excited about going this year, but I'm super excited about helping out years ahead. We got to go quick, but where do people find out about how to get their tickets?
CaribbeanGoes80s.com. It's that simple. That's all you got to remember. Okay. And if you go there, I would recommend to go to the frequently asked questions section first, and then go to the rest, because everyone has those beginning questions. Well, how do I do this? How do I do that? How do I do this? That answers the basics. And then reach out to us by email through the website, and we'll answer every question you have and point you in the right direction for sure.
And that email will be coming up at the tail end of the show. Dennis, I want to thank you so much for doing this. Guys, you're going to hear a lot more about this, because this is going to be a little bit of a theme for me in season 3. So thank you, my friend. And man, we look forward to getting down there.
Always, Sean. Really appreciate you and everything you do, man.
See you next week.
Be the difference.